The Crooked Forest, Poland, is one of the most bizarre natural phenomena in the world. It's a forest with over 400 oddly shaped trees that are all bent at the same angle. But what caused this strange phenomenon? Was it some kind of genetic mutation, or perhaps an unexplainable quirk of nature? Or maybe something more sinister, like a curse or the work of an angry deity? Well, we can tell you what did not cause this: aliens. Despite what some websites have told you, aliens didn't come down and bend these trees. That much we can assure you. So, how were they bent? In this video, we'll explore the mysterious story of the Crooked Forest and reveal what caused these trees to grow in such a peculiar way. So grab your walking boots and get ready for a trek into the unknown. It's going to be a weird one. It all began in the village of Nowe Charno. It's a tiny place situated in northwest Poland. So small, in fact, that it doesn't even have its own Wikipedia page. The village is surrounded by fields, forests, and sand dunes, all part of a region known as the Lowland. The area has been inhabited since prehistoric times, and today it's home to around 200 people. Now, for centuries, life was pretty uneventful in the village. That was until 2001, when someone strolling through the woods snapped a picture of a cluster of pine trees growing at odd angles. The trees were all bent at roughly the same angle, which made the scene look bizarre and unnatural. The photographer showed the pictures to his friends, who had no idea what could have caused such a phenomenon. They suggested that it might be the work of extraterrestrials, but that didn't make any sense. After all, if aliens wanted to mess around with trees, why would they only bend a small cluster? Surely they would have affected far more trees if they were going to do any at all. Still, no one could think of a reason why the trees were bent until one of the villagers came forward with an explanation. He claimed that he and other villagers had seen the trees growing straight when they were young. However, in 1963, the trees had suddenly started to curve, all except for one tree. This one tree remained perfectly straight, suggesting that whatever had happened to the others hadn't affected it. To date, no one has been able to explain why this single tree remained straight. The first person to share the story of the Crooked Forest online was a man named Andrew Skirka. He posted about the forest on an Unexplained Mysteries forum in 2007. His post included a photo of the trees and a description of the strange things surrounding them. According to Andrew, the trees had been growing in this way since 1963. He also explained that the forest had been closed off to the public for many years, but it had recently been opened up. This led many people to believe that the government was hiding the site from the public, because it was either a nuclear testing site or an alien landing site. Many people also believed that the trees had been deliberately bent by humans, possibly as part of some kind of communist plot. Some said they resembled the letter H, which they claimed was a Nazi symbol. But this theory didn't hold up to scrutiny either. For one thing, Poland was occupied by Germany during World War II. But the forest wasn't planted until after the war ended. Another problem with this theory is that the trees don't form the letter H. If you look closely at them, you can see that they resemble the letter N instead. And it just so happens that N is the first letter of Nowe Charno. By now, everyone in the village knew about the Crooked Forest. Villagers had their own theories about what caused the phenomenon, but no one was sure. It wasn't until 2009 that someone finally came up with a plausible explanation. Unfortunately, the person wasn't a scientist or an environmental expert. It was just a random guy named Valdemar, who said that he knew what happened to the forest because his father used to work there. According to Valdemar, the forest used to belong to a German family who owned 2 large estates in the area. One day the Germans decided to plant a new forest and ordered 400 pine seedlings from a nursery. The next day, the seedlings were delivered and the Germans immediately set to work planting them. Everything went according to plan until one of the workers broke his shovel. Unable to carry on, the worker decided to take a shortcut. He took the roots of the remaining seedlings and buried them under the soil, bending them at a 70-degree angle so that they would still receive enough sunlight. The next morning, the farmer noticed what he had done and panicked. He knew that his boss would be furious if he found out, so the farmer decided to cover up his mistake. He dug up each tree and replanted it, bending all of them to the same angle. When the boss came to inspect the progress, he was none the wiser. The farmer had done such a good job that he couldn't tell that anything had happened. May sound like a tall tale, but it actually makes sense. There is no evidence that the trees were planted at an angle or that anyone had tampered with their roots. Also, it's not unheard of for trees to be bent at an early age. It's a technique often used with fruit trees so that they do ungrow too tall and become difficult to harvest. The only thing that doesn't really add up is the fact that all of the trees are bent at the same angle. Usually when farmers manipulate trees, they bend them in different directions. This is probably something that Valdemar's father would have remembered, but since he passed away, we may never know the truth. But does that mean that the crooked forest is unreal, or that the trees were unplanted at an angle? No. All the evidence points to the fact that the forest is genuine, and that the trees were indeed planted at an angle. The difference is that it was most likely done intentionally rather than accidentally. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that both events happened. Maybe the trees were initially planted at an angle and then bent further when the farmer covered up his mistake. Either way, the mystery has been solved. There's no need to believe in aliens or communists anymore. We can put down those tinfoil hats now and stop worrying about mind control. What do you think of this story? Is it possible that the trees were bent intentionally? Let us know in the comments. While it's easy to dismiss this as just another crazy Polish legend, there are several reasons why we should take it seriously. For one thing, there are photos and videos of the crooked forest. Not only that, but people have visited the site and reported seeing the trees for themselves. Could they be wrong? Sure. But then again, why would they all agree on the same story? You'd think that if the trees had been planted at an angle, at least some of them would be growing straight. Yet every single one of them is bent. Even the leaves of the trees grow at the same angle. If these trees were growing normally, they would spiral around the trunk. But since they were planted at an angle, they all grow toward the same point. Another reason why we should take this story seriously is that it's not a modern phenomenon. According to the villagers, the trees have been bent since 1963, which means that they were bent at least 58 years ago. It's hard to imagine that so many people would be willing to lie about something like that, especially since it would ruin their peaceful way of life. Who would want to live in a village that was famous for being home to weird trees that were bent at a 70-degree angle? But here we are. And let's face it, if the trees really were planted at an angle, it's not that big of a deal. Yes, it's unusual, but it's not exactly a tragedy. But if the trees were planted straight and then bent, well, that's a whole different story. It means that someone came along and deliberately tried to ruin these trees. And that's just not right. We hope that whoever is responsible for this has realized the error of their ways. But until then, we're not sure if the crooked forest will ever grow straight again. A tornado could explain why the trees are all bent in the same direction and why they were bent so suddenly. However, there is no record of a tornado hitting the area in 1937. It's also possible that the trees were deliberately bent by humans. If this is true, it's possible that whoever bent the trees did so in order to create a windbreak or to prevent erosion. However, there is no evidence to support this theory. It's also possible that the trees were bent by animals. For example, deer are known to rub their bodies against trees in order to remove loose bark and to stimulate the growth of new bark. This behavior is known to cause trees to bend, and it's possible that a large number of deer could have caused the trees in the forest to bend. However, there is no evidence to support this theory either. Perhaps the most exciting theory is that the trees were bent by extraterrestrials. Proponents of this theory believe that the trees were bent by a beam of energy from a UFO, and that the beam is still affecting the trees today. However, there is no evidence to support this theory, and it should be noted that there have been no reports of UFO activity in the area. What do you think happened to the trees? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe for more videos about amazing discoveries. The Crooked Forest is located in a remote area of Poland, and it's not open to the public. However, there are a few ways that you can see it for yourself. One way is to take a hot air balloon ride over the forest. This is the only way to get a bird's eye view of the forest and to see the trees from above. Another way is to hire a plane and take a tour of the forest. This is also a great way to see the forest from above and to get some amazing photographs. If you're feeling brave, you could also try to sneak into the forest. However, this is obviously illegal and you could face serious penalties if you're caught. The Crooked Forest is a truly amazing place, and it's one of the most mysterious forests in the world. Whatever caused the trees to bend, it's clear that it was a once-in-a-lifetime event. And we may never know exactly what caused it to happen.